Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Beach Court Podcast. We're back on the ground here next to the beautiful beach in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm Eric Ridgway, joined as always by Max Corcoran and Parker Greenwald. Today, we're going to talk about Indianapolis, maybe talk about Dialga some. It was a crazy tournament. We've got our return of the gym leader versus trainer segment, thanks to some fans in Indianapolis asking for it back. So we love hearing your feedback. Andrew, looking at you. Thank you for the feedback. We'll talk about Twilight Masquerade. The set's fast approaching for NAIC. We got pre-releases this weekend. We'll talk about some of our favorite cards again with Parker this time, now that he's back. Welcome back, Parker. Hope you're doing well. And we've got some interviews with Jesper Eriksen and maybe some others. Who knows? So make sure you stay tuned till the end. Catch out who we're interviewing and hear from them in their day two runs in Indianapolis. Parker, how was your weekend? We wish you had you with us in Indy. What would you have played if you had gone?
I worked all weekend sadly, but if I had went, I would have gone with trusty old Tina.
Not the Lost Tina again.
Yes, sir.
I thought you had such a miserable time in Orlando that you would never pick that deck up again.
No, no, but it's like a disease. It haunts me.
All right, so the real question is Lost Tina beating Dialga?
Um, I think that one's pretty interesting actually, because like if you can survive the onslaught of like getting your turn skipped, I think you got a pretty good shot. As long as you don't, go Sableye attached pass or something like that,
True.
which I'm all too familiar with.
It's safe to say Abyss Seeking is not very safe in the matchup.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that probably has a bad matchup just because Abyss Seeking is so bad.
Mhm.
I guess you can like turn two, threaten their Beldums, just like, Greninja threaten.
Yeah.
Tinas don't
Anyways,
ever hit that.
yeah,
Let's be real.
Tina's never hit that.
Yeah, you have to like really try for that. You have to
Yeah.
open like Poffin plus Jet plus opening Comfy plus
Right.
this. Yeah,
You're
this is a
assuming you
lot.
have 7 playable cards in your hand.
Yeah.
That never happens. Okay, so Maddox, what about you? What was your weekend like? I think you made day two, and
Yeah, weekend went pretty well.
yeah,
Ultimately chose to bring Charizard. Really it was just, I kind of realized a couple weeks ago, I'm like, hey, this is just the best deck in the format by far. Really no reason to bring anything else, just because I felt like, hey, I can go and get a solid list, get a little bit of practice with the mirror, figure out what I'm doing, and then give the deck a good finish. So ultimately did that. Lost, actually started the day 1 and 2. Got, had my first game was pretty much all bricks. My opponent bricked and I bricked twice. Got high rolled by a Lugia to lose another game, but then really from there I was able to win 5 straight. Get to 6-2-1, enter the day, and then went 3-2-1 overall in day 2. So a few little pieces that wish I had back a few turns, a few different actions that I think I would have done differently to try to increase my chances. One of my losses day 2 was to a Lost Tina where I just kind of got destroyed. Wasn't very comfortable with the matchup when they were hitting the pieces they needed. So, but ultimately had a great weekend. Felt comfortable with the deck. Ended up 90th place. Not quite as high as I wanted, but again another nice finish. Some good reps for the deck and just kind of gearing up for new decks and new formats. So. I played the basic standard deck in the room that everyone else played. I worked with Rowan Staven actually a lot on the list. He sent me his 60 right before to make sure we're all lined up. But my deck wasn't getting any attention. But actually, Eric, your deck that you played to Indy was getting a lot of attention on Twitter or X for anyone who doesn't follow.
It was
Yeah.
doing
Ridgeway
numbers.
TCG.
yeah.
The numbers getting engagement and yeah. I don't know if you want to explain your run, your weekend a little bit.
Yeah. Matchup wise, it did not go my way. I did not hit the roulette. I guess my fault for not going to casino Thursday night when you guys didn't come in on time. So that's my bad. I should have went to casino Thursday. Anyways, I played Magnezone EX Control. The list was brought to me by PJ from the Shuffle Squad about 2 weeks ago. And I've been wanting to kind of experiment with control decks for a while. I've always been scared to because I haven't done it before. And I need my invite. So now that I've locked up the invite in Orlando and Magnezone actually has some potential next format with Scoop Up Cyclone, I really kind of want to just get some practice with it now and understand kind of how to play the deck, how to build the deck. Essentially, the deck is I will get rid of your resources with Crushing Hammer and Eerie, and then I will start attacking and kill everything. Like against, honestly, if you're looking for a deck that has a good Dialga matchup, this is it. Like, this is the deck that has a no, this deck has a great Dialga matchup. For a single energy, for Energy Crush, you're KOing those guys easily. Like, super easily.
But Eric, how do you get back your Crushing Hammers? You only play 4 in a deck, and I'm terrible at flipping heads.
Yeah, that's a great question, Maddox. Thank you for asking. The Junk Hunt is the biggest piece of the deck. So Magneton.
Junk Hunt, didn't that card rotate back years ago?
Yeah,
probably
isn't that Sableye from Black and White?
So
bro?
Magneton has the attack Junk Hunt for a single energy, a single lightning energy.
A Junk Magnet.
Junk Magnet, excuse me. You can get back 2 items from your discard pile. So you're usually looping Hammer, Counter Catcher. That's usually the 2 you're looping, unless you have a Counter Catcher in hand. Then you're just looping 2 hammers. The deck only plays 1 Relicanth. That was probably like the one thing on my list is like, that's a little questionable because you're not playing heavy ball. And if you prize it, who knows?
Yeah, attack with.
But like I found that like you don't go into Magnezone early a lot. Like you're only going into Magnezone once your opponent's already at like 3 prizes and you're Iono counter catchering, ready to Relicanth Junk Hunt, and things like that. So I played 1 Devo for the Chin Pal matchup as an extra win con to get rid of their candies and Devo the backs. So otherwise your only other win con is just kind of like run them out of energy and superiors, which is also still a valid win con. The one Chin Pal player I played just sauced me, got turned to Cologne both games. So it's like, all right, well, good game. Yeah. And it has a good Lugia matchup, actually. I didn't test the matchup at all coming in. Bodied a Lugia player like game 1, like, all right, I set up and he only got 1 Chinchino down. So I bossed the Chinchino, KO'd it. He couldn't KO me back. And then I KO his Lugia and it was just kind of like over from there.
Yeah, lightning is good into Lugia.
Yeah,
Proven fact.
Proven fact. Brick game 2 and then prize 3 Magnemites game 3. And I was like, okay, that's all she wrote. That so the Chin Pal, that plus 2 Guardies, which Guardies an auto loss for the deck, sadly. It's
Can't getting rid of their energy does nothing for you.
It's not built to beat Guardy. It's built to beat Zard. So like just the matchup roulette just didn't come my way. But the deck's really fun. If you're looking to try it out at your locals, hit me up on Twitter. I'll ask any questions. I'm gonna run through a couple of them that the Twitter post did get right now. Jack Moore says, how does the Zard matchup go if they boss Relicanth every turn? Do you leave it as a Magnetone in that case? I kind of addressed that already. I don't attack with Magnezone much for the Junk Magnet. You do, but if they are bossing it, then you play 2 rods and you play nest balls. You can just Junk Magnet for rod nest ball. So if you really need to. Bob McDougal says, what cards you're usually looping? Went through that. You're usually looping Hammer and Counter Catcher. Somebody said, what did I place? We're not going to answer that one. Someone said, what the heck is this? It's the fun deck. Brian Klenn said, is 3 Eerie worth it? 1 Relicanth safe. We talked about Relicanth already. 3 Eerie. I went back and forth on this, honestly, because against Zard, you want to find the rods. The win con against Zard is very simple. It's hammer away the energies, find both rods. So I didn't know if I wanted 2 Misfortune Sisters and 2 Eries, or 3 Eries, 1 Misfortune Sister. What swayed my decision in the end was Chen Pal not playing Iono. Like, they don't really play Ionos. So Chen Pal's going to have the stuff that I want to target in hand, so I just wanted 3 Eerie at all time. A couple people said the energy count's very low. We added, when the list was given to me, it didn't have a vessel. We added a vessel so that way Arvin turn 1 equals vessel plus TM evolution. Why not just play Ursaluna? I agree, it's better. Yeah, that's really it. So I just run through a couple of those questions. Didn't get a good finish, but that's okay. Had a lot of fun and got to play some side events and some GLC on Sunday, which I loved. I played Psychic Lost Zone GLC 2-2. Had such a great time. I actually played in the 06 event on
I did, yeah. I played on Friday. Yeah, I was able to borrow a deck. Shout out to some of the Orlando locals that let me, hook me up with a deck, help me borrow one. Played Meta Knight, which was, an iconic deck from the time. I very quickly learned a lot about the format where there's this card called Battle Frontier, which shuts off all of your evolution, colorless, darkness, and metal type Pokemon abilities. which was basically the whole format. So you either played a deck that
Yep.
gets stopped by Battle Frontier, or you play a deck that plays Battle Frontier. So kind of a funky world, and you know, a lot of aggressive stadiums. So my deck even played 4 stadium bumps, and like a lot of times I'm still getting like locked out of the game. I'm like, oh, you play 7 disruptive stadiums? Like, yikes. But yeah, a lot of fun. Great to like learn a new format and just have some fun with it. So again, that's the cool part about regionals, is that even if you don't do great in the main event, or even if you're not a huge fan of standard, you know, there's lots that you can play pack battles. You can play even like build-in battles, like pre-releases, like we're gonna talk about later, GLC, retro events, a whole bunch of type of stuff. So
Well, speaking of regional championships, let's transition our conversation back to the Indianapolis Championships and people who did do well. One of those people that did well was Andrew Hedrick with Dialga. Dialga was everywhere. And so was Chen Pao, and I think that's why we saw Dialga succeed. Chen Pao was beating all the Zards, and Dialga was beating up on all the Chen Paos. So I mean, they definitely have a 50-50 Zard matchup, I think. But it's very favorable. I would say like 60-40 into Chen Pao. What are your thoughts, Parker, on the Dialga deck winning a regional championship? Did you think this was going to be a day you were going to see?
Honestly, no. I've always said the deck's good, and I believed in like strong finishes, but I never thought I would see it win a regional. Funnily enough, there's like a bunch of the top players like played like the same 60, and
Yeah.
they're all, you know, destroying everyone, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, turns out taking 2 turns, kind of like yoga looping, is pretty good.
Yeah, 2
So I mean,
knockouts.
it's essentially a yoga
Mhm.
loop, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, Maddox, what are your thoughts on Dialga winning Indianapolis?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a case of, you know, just the right deck, the right player,
Yeah,
and the right field.
yeah,
You know, I don't think that Dialga sees the success it is, and right in, you know, Andrew Hedrick with a 9-0 start. I don't think a lot of that happens unless there's all these Chen Paos that are, you know, tearing up the top tables all day 1 into day 2 type of thing. Right, look at this top 8, 4 of them Chen Paos.
or Chen Piles, yeah.
And you know, really Dialga just, you know, having a surprisingly solid matchup spread that a lot of people were kind of underrating. I do think that there was a lot of, you know, still trying to find out perfect 60. Some people were still, you know, leaning on that TM Evo. Ultimately here, you know, the style they opted for is just a kind of plow through the deck, you know, for her research for Iono, just find those cards that you need. And there's even great examples of some of the skill expression of the deck with being able to see your cards through Metal Maker. There's great play at the end of game 1 of finals where Andrew Hendricks needs to hit his prime catcher to win the game. And he's able to say, okay, well, I previously Metal Makered, you know, he was able to see where it was previously in the Metal Maker. He Metal Makers 1 time intentionally and then hits the research to, I think it was like a 7 out of 8 chance to hit the prime catcher, or, you know,
Yeah,
3 out of 4.
Yeah.
So he was able to run the numbers there and say, hey, odds are I hit it here. And you know, basically, you know, using those extra tools to your ability, and you know, considering the sequence of the deck, which again a lot of players aren't doing. But when you have an incredible player like Andrew Hedrick, who's been known to run hot and have these incredible 9-0 runs, right? He won 2 regionals last season.
Yeah.
Again, just an incredible player. I think the right deck, the right player, the right time. Even hitting like the Pidgeot control in, you know, top 4, right?
top 4, yeah.
You know, Pidgeot control does great into everything that's not a theme deck. Dialga is basically built like a theme deck with just enough energy and 4 rods that kind of gets past everything. So, I mean, even a deck that's tech to beat everything, I don't think that's a matchup that was even tested too much on the Pidgeot control side. So, congrats to Andrew again, just incredible run, a run that he's known for. And you know, see him with another regional win this season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Dialga had its spotlight. Looking at the top 8 kind of as a whole, top 8 was stacked with top talent. Friend of the pod, Nick Moffitt, also made top 8 again with Chen Pao, Andrew Mahone, Ian Robb, Grant Manley, Grant Shin. I mean, those are household Pokemon names.
Yeah, Dean too.
Yeah, I mean, even Dean's had has had a really good season. Dean's had a lot of top, you know, day 2s with the same deck that he's been playing. Yeah, so it's interesting to see what happened here. We had another 36 bubble yet again. I guess this is just the new norm. You know, when do we see players shift from IDing, you know, IDing that round 15 to go to 36. I mean, do we see that shift here
I know.
soon, or are we waiting on Pokemon to make an announcement before we make changes as a
I
player?
know. I think a couple of them were 33s that won their, last game, and like I don't know. It's kind of, it leaves it up to chance a little bit, but
Yeah.
I mean,
I
we
mean,
can look
in
at
fairness to Lucas, I'm pretty sure he was at table 1 and ID'd, and still bubbled out. So again, when it comes down to that resistance, hard to say. And I can understand if you're one of those players that's saying, "Hey, I can play this out and have a chance to," and maybe I may win and make top cut, or I lose and I definitely don't. Versus the draw where you say, "Hey, I have a pretty good chance to make it anyways." Um, it's a pretty tough position here. Right? 36 used to be kind of safe for the longest time, and now it's quickly finding out it's not quite as safe. Even that like 33 match points, like a top 32, we're starting to see players bubble out of that again.
yeah, it's
Just seeing the
crazy.
scale and size of these tournaments, where again, it's wild to see. I mean, I think back to when I got 30 points in Fresno last year, and that was top 32. And these days, right, 30 points has you like barely like. I mean, I think it still has you in like top 128, but it's but like
Maybe.
maybe right. It's just the size of these tournaments are really growing, which is great for the game. Still some probably changes and tweaks that a lot of people would say they want to see to the current like day 2 system.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sad to see. I mean, there's just so much money riding on this stuff nowadays. I mean, we had a bubble at 33 again. We had 3 people bubble out of top 32. I mean, like, look at Tyler Matthews is a
Tyler
perfect example.
Matthews, yeah.
Tyler Matthews
share
had
your
a win
screen?
and into top 8. Yeah, hold on, let me change the screen I'm sharing. This one. And we're going here.
Everyone listening on Spotify, you can always watch the video of this on YouTube. But I'm a
Yeah.
Spotify listener too, so I get you. But we're talking through Pokedata right now.
Yeah, so this is another resource, pokedata.ovh. So Tyler Matthews played Grant Manley round 15, and Grant made top 8. So basically, he had to win in a top 8 also. Lost it and bubbled 32 for money. So like this person, Philip, I don't, feel super bad for them missing because they either ID'd or tied, naturally round 15. And looks like Brent won and bubbled out. So a little different, but like just the one that sticks out to me is Tyler. It's like,
Tyler, yeah.
all right, I got winning into top 8. I lose and
Yeah.
I don't get any money.
No.
Like that just does not sit right with me. We've hit that home and home again. Pokemon, you got to change it. This is not cool. But yeah. So hopefully we'll see some adjustments next season. I don't want to hit too much on that. Let's transition back to see, do we have any cool, interesting decks in day 2 that we want to talk about and review the day 2 meta? So as we look at day 2 meta, we had 65 Charizards, 30 Chenpals, 26 Arceus, 18 Lost Zone Box, 17 Gardevoir, and 14 Lugia for your top 6 decks. And you even had Giratina tie Lugia for 6th place. Anything stand out to you in day 2?
13 Dialgas kind of stands out to me.
Yeah, I mean 13 Dialgas is crazy.
I mean, again, it's 5%, so it's not too much. But a deck going from like a under 1% play rate to 5% in day 2, and eventually winning the tournament, right? I mean, that definitely stands out. A lot of top players showed up with the Pidgeot control. Shout out to All Out Blitzel, who's been highlighting this really innovative Wigglytuff EX list, combo with like Cloth EX, and just really a bunch of ways to disrupt. A lot of top players, Azul, Gedimer, Grant Manley, their whole crew all showed up with it, as well as some other top players like Ryan Antonucci. I mean, just ultimately, like, some really spicy decks kind of out here. But again, still a meta game that's just dominated by Zard and Chen Pao.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Zard and Chen-Pao world. We're just living in it. And one of the things I want to say about the Dialga, jumping up, when you have a group of good players jump on a deck, no matter how bad you may think it is, the deck's going to do well because they're good players. So that doesn't mean the Dialga's good. That doesn't mean Dialga's bad. I'm just trying to say, if all of Grant Manley's and Azul's group and all the top players played Future, we'd probably see Future have a top 8 finish and do really well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so just kind of
Mhm.
keep that in mind when you look at those type of results. Something stands out to me, guys. Cloth Electrode made day 2.
Yeah.
This list has some vacuums. It has some Cramorants. It's doing some cool things. So congratulations to Stephen Bates. I
Will
think he
Steve
said
the Bates God?
he's doing
Absolutely
a
cooking.
master class for 10 cents or something. I think I saw if you want to learn how to play Cloth Cramorant. But yeah, the deck seems pretty cool. That stood out to me. Also, Max, you want to talk about your round 15 opponent and their deck? Because this seems
Yeah,
really
so
cool.
I actually played against 2 different Raging Bolt decks. I played against a Raging Bolt Gardevoir in day 1, and then I played against Sammy Allen, piloting this really cool Raging Bolt Palkia V-Star list, which is a deck that we've like heard about and seen, but was not quite expecting when he flipped it over in round 15 against me. So
What was his opening Pokemon?
I'm pretty sure it was Palkia.
Okay.
So actually, no, he opened Mew. Actually, no, yeah,
Oh,
he
he
opened
opened
Mew
Mew,
EX, and I was
okay.
kind of like, okay, maybe this like lost box, and he's like, okay, you go like, and then he went like, Nest Ball for Greninja. I'm like, okay, still saying, and it's like, and then Nest Ball for Raging Bolt. I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing, right?
This
Like
is
Nest
what
Ball
we're
for
doing.
Squawk, right? I mean, so yeah, I mean, again, really cool list, right? Really here just using the power of Sandy Shocks and Professor Sawdust Vitality to go empower to Raging Bolts. Plus, also with again, kind of like a Goldango factor. Hey, you might as well just slap in Palkia, lets you accelerate 3 energy to discard with Raging Bolt, or lets you power up Radiant Greninja. So he was able to go, I had to get Manaphy down because he's able to go and threaten, turn 2 Greninja on 2 Charmanders.
Yep.
So, and then, he plays 2 canceling Cologne plus the Prime Catcher. I mean, some of that stuff gets kind of spooky. Doesn't
He's
even
playing
need
3 Pokemon catchers.
yeah, and the 3 Pokemon catcher. Yeah, definitely had some. First time he got one of those, like gust up my Luminion. I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. So I mean, yeah, just ultimately a really cool deck. A fun set. I think the only downside of the set, we kind of entered into a weird board state like late in game 1, where I was a little low on energy and I'd use my energy acceleration. So there's kind of like some like passing back and forth where I had like Radzard in the active, but I couldn't get the energy to attack with him, and I didn't also have my bench Charizard powered up. So a little bit of like weirdness there. He even plays like the Irida and things like that to help go and find his pieces. So like ultimately I ended up winning game 1 in kind of a longer game. Game 2, he's able to win right in as turns is going on. So just be able to make a great play, find his pieces, and get his Sandy Shocks powered up. Sandy Shocks, sneaky late game attacker. For that,
it's 220.
200, yeah,
Mhm.
enough to KO, and your bench V's, things like that. So he's able to pull off the play. So unfortunately we tied, which put us both out of top 64 contention. Again, I mean that's kind of part of it. I think looking back, like maybe that game 2, I could have tried to scoop earlier, but since game 1 took so long, it was kind of hard to guarantee since the matchup was kind of funky. Also playing those capsules on the Raging Bolts makes them really hard to KO with Charizard. But I mean, shout out to Sammy for a really fun deck, really innovative deck and a strong finish with it. Definitely gonna be one of those decks that people are trying out. And also shout out to friend of the pod, Adam Reinhardt, for also playing a Raging Bolt deck to a top 64 finish.
Yeah.
Raging Bolt with a Raikou.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Adam played Raging Bolt with Raikou, so that he can hit Luminion for weakness and have a 4 Sealstone target.
Yeah, well, Raikou for Pidgeot, most importantly.
Yep. Oh, true. Pidgeot. Yeah. All right. Anything else in day 2 stand out to you? You want to talk about?
The Chen Pals.
30
All of them. Lots of, I mean, look, let me go scroll down and see the full release results. I mean, so many in the top few, right? I mean, that's
look at that. Yeah.
that's 7 in top 16.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, that's unheard of.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's crazy. That's Charizard numbers.
That is indeed Charizard numbers.
I think Charizard only had there's only 2 Zards in the top 16. So definitely it was everyone was ready for Zard. Zard was a good play to make it in day 2, but if you're looking to win the event, then you had to play something that beat Zard for the most part.
Somebody played Ditto.
Ditto.
Probably. There's always one.
There's a future box list. Like an actual future box list in day 2.
Is there?
Plays,
Oh yeah, no, I did see that actually. Yeah.
plays 2 hands, 2 leaves, 2 or 1
It
boulder.
was
Brendan Aker.
Brendan, right?
I played
Yeah.
against him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so I mean, he had the. I mean, again, a little spooky matchup at first, just because it's like, okay, future hands, right? They're gonna go fast. Punish your liabilities, and he also played a package of Reboot Pod, 3 Grass Energy, and then 2 Iron Leaves. So his first play against me was to go Miraidon with just 2 Iron Hands down and Accelerating Peak, just put 2 Grass into play. So he's already threatening a knockout with Charizard type of thing. So yeah, I mean, was still, I think, again, the problems that Eric, right, you and I found with the deck when we played it to EOIC is definitely that struggle with like the late game disruption if you're going a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
I even had a slow start, which he kind of capitalized on, and then was able to kind of stick a late game Iono, just start to get things set up, and eventually ultimately putting 2 Charizards into play, pretty hard for conventional future hands to deal with. The Iron Leaves definitely makes it easier, but was able to help remove the baton, get the Grass Energy out of play, and make it very hard, right? He needs to find off an Iono to 2, needs to find future Reboot Pod plus Leaves type of thing.
Did I see somebody play Boulder? Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
The Iron Boulder back in some lists.
Dylan Donnelly played a very, very teched out list.
This is a true like future box at this point. There's no generators, not enough lightnings, all that stuff. And still Prime Catcher, funny enough. An EXP share heavy build. Yeah, no Reboot Pod. I mean, only the.
There's no
probably
there's 2 XP share.
10 energy.
Yeah, XP share. The Bravery Charm, like I was saying.
Penny.
Only 3 boosters.
This list is crazy.
Wait, are they actually playing Energy Search though?
Yeah.
Not
actually.
Vessel.
I mean, you don't want to discard too much stuff. Like you're playing off a pretty small hand size. You don't have great ways to get energy back. They play 1 Super Rod as well to help get back some attackers or put energy back into play with Miraidon, things like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun lists here to explore for day 2 if you're looking for something fun to play for LA or Puerto Rico or any special events or cups that you're going to for locals until NEIC format. Check them out, have some fun, build some saucy decks. All right, we'll transition now to our next segment, which is a segment we haven't done in a while, and one of our friends of the podcast called us out on it this weekend. Said, "Hey man, where's gym leader versus trainer? I really missed that segment." So we'll bring it back here. Max and Parker, I'm going to ask you to close your browsers or minimize them. No cheating allowed.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to do co-op style. So that way you guys can talk it out and have some fun. And since Andrew called us out, and we haven't done this in a while, we got to bring back the age-old question that we love.
No.
We got Twilight Masquerade coming. How many different EXs are in the set?
Oh God. Okay, there's 4
Ogre piece of paper for this one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 4 Ogre Pawns. That's a good one. So we got Blood Moon Ursaluna, of course.
Yep. We got Dragapult.
We got
Greninja. We got Sinistee.
Ooh.
We got
I was just looking through the set list too, practicing for our next segment where we talk about how to improve your pre-release decks this weekend.
Oh, there's Blissey.
Oh yeah, Blissey. Blissey's pretty cracked. Definitely getting carried by the gym leader in this one.
Yeah, you are.
There's a fire one. Is there a big fire one? I mean, besides Ogre Pond?
Oh, Macargo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Macargo.
okay, yeah. I knew there was something.
I think that Macargo's kind of good.
Palafin.
Is that in the set? I guess it is. I didn't know if it was just the promo or what. I've heard different things. What are we at now?
We're at 8, 11.
11. There's
some more grass ones. I mean, we got Ogre Pond. I think that's the only Ogre Pond. What other types are there? Water. Are there any other water ones?
Is there a psychic one?
Yeah, I think there's something. Well, remember, there's like all the monkey stuff. But I don't know what else is there. Oh, the Screamtail EX. The one that's bad.
Oh yeah, the no supporter one. Yeah.
If you're a Screamtail EX fan, sorry I said it's bad, but I don't think it's that good. I mean, it's
Um,
good. I don't know. Could be good. Remains to be seen. Play 4 Jets with it. Dark Dragon. We got Dragapult. I think that's probably it there.
I think so.
Metal. Is there a metal guy?
I don't think so.
Trying to hit every type.
Look at Eric, a little smug grin on his face.
What else is there? I mean, we got fighting. What do we say for fighting?
I feel like I remember seeing a fighting one.
There's definitely. Oh, sorry. Greninja's fighting in this one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think that's it.
The funniest part about
Um,
this, guys, is that we've been planning for this episode about pre-release stuff. So they've definitely been going through the EXs today before the episode. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of throwing them a
Well-
softball, and I'm curious if they're gonna get it right.
Well, the thing is, I've been busy focusing on pre-release format. I can't expect everyone to go and pull all the EXs.
I mean,
could be like,
obviously,
oh,
you
go
pull
play
all
4
the
Blood Moon
EXs.
Ursaluna in your pre-release kit. Like, obviously. There's definitely one bulk one that we're just forgetting.
Wait, isn't
There's
Blood
gotta
Moon
be, like-
Ursaluna actually terrible in pre-release?
Attack for 3 energy
Yeah.
and you're 260 HP.
Yeah, that's true. How many are we at?
We're at 12. Seems like a pretty good
12.
number to me. Obsidian Flames had like 16 or something, but that was a
I'm-
bunch of bulk.
Let's
There's
just say
definitely
there's
something we're forgetting.
Yeah, let's just say there's 15.
No, I don't think we're missing 2, 3. I think we're missing 2.
Okay, you think 14?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's say we got 12 and then there's just like 1 or 2 extra that we're missing.
Yeah.
This is really funny.
That's so funny.
Just like, oh, we missed some. Add some to it. Add some arbitrary number to it.
I hope we actually hit
Yeah.
all of them. I mean, honestly, I think if we got all of them, that'll be more impressive, and then the fans will know that we got them all right anyways. And if you agree, comment below on that. So,
Yeah.
All right, so you guys locking in an
you want
answer?
13 or 14, Parker?
Let's do 14.
14? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go 14. We'll go 14.
Are you guys locking in 14?
Yes.
You guys are correct. That is
Hey!
14.
Let's go.
We got them all right except
were
the
the
ones
2 we
didn't.
forgot?
You missed Luxray and Iron Thorns.
There's a
Oh,
Luxray?
yeah, we skipped all the bucks.
Oh, Iron Thorns. Yo, what the heck?
That's a
Wait,
miss.
what does Luxray do?
Wait, that's the like Fang Snipe any card out of your hand.
Plus damage.
Plus 120.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Luxray's cracked.
You guys just like
Dang.
completely skipped. If you had like thought about lightning, I think you would have got it. But you just like completely skipped lightning.
To be fair, I was scrolling through the set earlier and I was scrolling through. I was like, oh, Iron Thorns is in this set. Like, oh, I totally forgot about him. And then forgot again. So,
I mean, you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
did
pretty
well
proud of that.
though. I
got-
honestly like. I didn't have Sinisha when I went through it earlier. So when you guys
What?
said that, I was like, oh, my count's wrong. Let me go check this again.
Wait, this
So-
Luxray's cracked.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
let's-
saying.
But it's a stage 2. It's not cracked. It's stage 2.
You've played Magnezone EX to this regional.
Yeah, but
Eric
I
says
attacked.
stage 2s aren't cracked. Have you heard of Gardevoir EX? Have you heard of Charizard EX?
Charizard EX.
Yes, but Luxio's attack.
Have you heard
is
of
terrible.
Baxcalibur? Did you say Luxio's attack?
Yeah, it's
Isn't there
terrible.
a Luxio where like
Who-
if you
who cares
draw
about
it for
Luxio?
turn, you
No,
can
you
put
play
it on
Rare
the
Candy.
bench? Isn't there like a Luxio where if you draw it for turn, you can put it on the bench or something?
Bro, you're just gonna get.
Oh,
tripped.
no, that's not.
Or is it maybe it's Luxray or something?
I think that's a
or-
Lux.
There is a
No,
the
there's the explosive
Luxray.
start
Yeah,
Luxray.
if you have it in your hand, start the game.
Ah, okay.
Did you just
okay.
say Luxio's attack is terrible? That's like, how is that relevant?
Because he brought up Magneton. The Magneton's attack
Oh.
is goaded.
But Magnezone
bad.
EX sucks. Like, that's the
Nah,
difference.
nah, Magnezone EX is
Dude,
cracked.
one
That's like
for
saying like, yo, heat tackle a Charmeleon isn't even that good. It's like, yeah, sure, but Luxray if Charizard EX is good.
Now,
Yo, this
Charmeleon's-
has a Luxio has a 1 for 90 to everything that has a Pokemon tool attached. Tell me that
Yo.
ain't cracked.
Wait, which one? Wait, which Luxio?
must be a different set. 'cause
It's
I didn't- I
from
didn't play this set.
it's from Crown Zenith.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Shout out. Yeah.
Anyways, so that was fun. Thanks for playing along at home. Hopefully you guys got that. Make sure you comment and leave a comment what you got. While you're there, also hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. It supports the channel a lot. Thanks for all the support lately. Speaking of support, Nakam Anime Cafe is the greatest place in Jacksonville, Florida. They got some awesome Japanese experiences if you want to stop in there. We're talking about pre-release next. Sponsor is so much great. My words are terrible here. Bear with me for a second while my brain works. Okay. Anyways, the
It is so
pre-release.
much great. It made him lose his words. That's how
Yeah,
great it
that's
is.
how great it is. The pre-release is next Friday at midnight for Nakama Anime Cafe if you want to stop in and have some fun with us. And then just sleep there because the cup's on 5/18 the next day. So make sure you come out for the pre-release and cup next weekend. Support Nakama Anime Cafe. Tell them that we sent you. We'd love it.
Mhm.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, come out and join us. If you got questions, just send us a DM on Twitter.
Yep. All right, let's jump into Twilight Masquerade. Without further ado, Parker, you weren't here with us last episode because you were not feeling well. So welcome back. Sounds like you're feeling better. We're happy to have you back.
Yes.
What are your top 3 favorite cards from the set that you are looking forward to play? We did a draft. We can't do a draft again, or we could, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
So what are your top 3 cards? You get to pick anything because you weren't here.
Yeah. So I really like the Greninja. And I know it's being gate kept by Dragapult over in Japan, but really like the Greninja. We're pulling it up.
Yeah, pulling it up. Gotta get the Greninja up on the screen for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the fighting types at? Bruh.
After grass,
No, it's
Sir?
fire. No, there was nothing there.
it's
Unless there's only like 2.
it's fighting. Fighting type. Terra. Fighting type. Fighting.
Brother.
It's like after lightning. Keep going. Keep scrolling.
Oh, well, you said after grass. Did you not say that?
No, grass is the first type. Everything's after grass in a set list.
Oh,
Oh.
here we go. Right here.
Yeah, Greninja EX, I mean, like, really solid card. I know a lot of people that are excited about it. I know that one, the secret art rare of that is just an absolutely gorgeous card.
It is, yeah.
That one's going to definitely go for a lot because it's Greninja. I mean, yeah, Parker, I mean, is this like Rapid Strike Urshifu coming back?
I think even better. I think there's
Really?
just like you could even just Ninja Blade the whole game.
Oh, so not even using Duplicate's Barrage, just Ninja Blade.
Yeah, I mean you could play like I know people probably try the boomerang energy with it, but I'm not so sure on that one.
How are you beating Dragapult though? That's the problem.
Yeah, you're not really beating it, I don't think. I mean you could like Duplicates Barrage, I guess, and then like Devo, but like that's the same thing they're doing, but
play
better.
2 Rapska?
Two Rapska, bro.
2 Rapska?
2 Rapska, bro.
Not the 2 Rapska.
That probably beats it, right? If you play 2 Rapska.
Perhaps.
It's unfortunate, like, if Ninja Blade did like if it did like 200, then you can go like Ninja Blade and then Duplicate's Barrage to like KO a Dragapult. Assuming the Dragapult's not benched.
I was saying, is it Dragapult, not Terra?
It is Terra.
Yeah.
But Dragapult's attacking in the active.
Dragapult's not Terra, is it?
Yeah, it is. If only I had a set
he's a
list in front of me
dragon.
on my monitor where it said Terra as long as your Pokemon is on the bench. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks, both yours and your opponents.
Where is the dragon?
Is he not
Everyone
a
watching
dragon
on
type?
everyone watching on listening on
Yeah.
Spotify, you can watch Eric hopelessly scrolling through the set
Guys,
list, hoping to prove me
guys.
wrong.
Yes, Terra. It is indeed Terra.
Why is it Terra? Is he not a dragon type?
He's Terra
Yes.
because he's wearing a little hat. Haven't you played the video
But
game?
no, I know, but don't they always make him a different type?
Yes, but look at the energy. It's-
always,
it's
though.
because of the energy cost, probably. I don't know.
You're not always a
man.
different type. Like the earliest ones, like Arcanine and Gyarados EX, those are just like fire and water too.
Yeah, true. Well, speaking of Dragapult, I was excited for that card, and then I saw it was like 31% of like one of the Japanese tournaments, and I was like, oh, I'm not really that excited for it anymore. But I think Tatsugiri is on
Mhm.
my radar to be one of my new favorites.
For the art card of that one, gotta have
Yes, you get to attract customers to your sushi shop,
it.
Yes, sir.
and by doing that, you also get to look at the top 6 cards of your deck and reveal a supporter card you find there.
Yeah.
Especially with emergency board in the format, just like a great splashable card,
So
helps
good.
consistency. Find your supporters, retreat back, and do what you need to do.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites. I know I'm picking all like stupid, good cards, but yeah, right there, that
Yeah,
one.
I knew you were going
That
there.
was
Yeah.
yep. hmm
Blood
He is
Moon Ursula
referring to
EX.
Blood Moon Ursula EX.
Every deck gets a fat Radiant Charizard.
Pat Radiant Charizard. Yeah. Yeah, this card's gonna be so good. I think it's gonna be so good.
I
So
think it's a good thing it doesn't do 10 more damage. Then it would be like
250. Yeah,
250 to 280 with
yeah,
belt and
yeah,
stuff.
true.
Yeah, even like Defiance Band type of thing.
Yeah, or
Is
even
it-
Choice Belt. It's like Lugia and like Tina are still pretty good.
Play
True.
play Halucha, Prime Catcher, Defiance Band.
What? Nah.
Gotta get there somehow, right?
Oh,
Actually, you just play Sableye and you put 10 on everything.
True.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about pre-releases this weekend. So we don't have, as of recording, we don't have a full set of the pre-release cards of what's going to be in the kits. We do know what the actual promos are going to be. You have Infernape, Tatsugiri, Frostlass, and Dipplin. Those are the four.
Wacky.
Thwacky, not Dipplin.
Bro, you said
We're saying the
earlier,
Dipplin
you
goes.
brother.
The Dipplin goes with Wacky, probably.
I got wrecked.
If only there was a spot where you could, if only there was a website such as justinbasil.com that told you exactly what the promos were.
Brother, kill me. It's fine.
Yeah,
Anyways.
just like the fighting types right after the grass.
Moving on. It's a Thwacky. It's not a Dipplin. Sorry, we think the Dipplin is going to be in the Thwacky pack, is why we had said that.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Which one are you looking forward to pull? And what combos are you going to be looking for with that card?
I think most competitive players are probably going to want to pull the Tatsugiri.
Yeah.
But as far as like me, if I was playing in a pre-release, I would want to pull the Inferno personally.
Infernape?
Yeah, I like that Pokemon, and then it's got like a good ability as well.
Once during your turn, you may attach a basic fire energy, a basic
Fighting
energy. Why that threw me off there? Or one of each from your hand to your Pokemon any way you like. And the attack is fire, colorless, scorching fire for 200 damage and discard an energy from this Pokemon. Pretty good. Yeah, pre-release is pretty good. Yeah.
Again, yeah, just the ability to throw 2 extra energy and play a turn. Again, it does require you to have both of them in your hand at the same time, plus 2 different types. But again, just that ability when you're playing different types in a deck, there's a lot of possibilities there. A good combo card I was looking at was some of the fighting guys that you can combo with your fires. Conkeldurr, right? Stage 2, very bulky, but for a lot of energy, I think it needs 4 energy, but it's able to hit 250. So very, very strong attack if you're able to get there. As well as that, right? So this is the 4 energy for 250, but fighting colorless. So you can go, attach 1, and in 2 turns you can power this up, or start pre-attaching to it earlier again as you're evolving it, finding your evolution pieces, all that fun stuff. There's also a Halucha that has a good revenge attack.
Isn't the Brute Bonnet in this?
Not that Brute Bonnet.
Wait, there's a new Brute Bonnet that has an ability, right?
It doesn't have an ability. It has an attack that
it
poisons the opponent's active.
That's
I looked through. There isn't a great way to add a self-status condition. Also, the festival grounds stadium preventing special conditions does make it a little bit tricky to use that with the Conkeldurr with the status condition.
There's no ability that does it. That's sad.
Nope.
Cringe. That'd be dope.
Will we see a Earthen Vessel reprint in the Infernape?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That card's like $3 now.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I do think that again, some of the staples that you get, these like nice trainer staples are always good to have and a good way to make some cards more accessible type of thing. I know, like, in general, like, Parker, I'm curious, right? You even, deck building and playing for a while. Like, when you're building a pre-release deck, like, what type of approach do you like think about when building it? Like, are you thinking, I want to keep this many energy, or I want to have this many Pokemon? I know it's kind of hard to say. Are you just playing every trainer card that you get? Like what tips would you have for like just building a pre-release deck for our listeners?
Typically you want to open the broken EX and then just play that in 15 or 39. Oh, I'm just kidding.
No, but
that is a
seriously,
good strat though.
Yeah, just 1 Iron Thorns and 39 energy.
Yeah. So typically, like, it's a little bit of a trap to play every trainer because like sometimes not every trainer's good. Like they do give you pretty decent stuff in the kits, but like you really want to play like hand or what's it called?
Hand trimmer or like Bianca's
Not
devotion
the,
or like
the flute thing. Like, are
uh,
you really gonna want to play that? No,
The
not
Poke
really.
Flute, yeah, no, probably
Like
not.
a Pokemon that attacks for like a small energy cost, like is better than playing that hand flute, whatever it's called thingy, or even just another basic energy.
mhm. Yeah, I always try to look for like good starters, like, because
Yeah.
again, it's kind of hard to get set up because you don't have a lot of like Pokemon search or like energy search, right? A lot of the staples we take for granted, like a 4 Nest Ball or 4 Ultra Ball or Buddy Puffin, right? Those are all not in the set. Maybe you're lucky you get a couple in your like pre-built kit, but yeah, I know Eric has this highlighted. One card that I was looking at in particular is as a good starter is if you're pulling any Jinx, that's probably a card that I'm going to throw immediately into my deck. For a colorless, you
Yeah.
search your deck for a basic Pokemon, put on your bench, and then move an energy from the Jinx to that Pokemon. So it's a great way of saying, hey, I can start powering up. Maybe I have a stage 2 evolution, or maybe just a stronger stage 1, or maybe I'm building towards something big like that Greninja EX or something. I can already I can search for it and attach an energy to it for turn, kind of, all at once.
Yeah.
Right, if you want to play mill and pre-release, just play the Crawdons.
Oh,
Snip,
snip, snip.
Flip 2 coins for each head, discard a card from your opponent's deck.
And it does
Wow.
40 damage.
Snip, snip.
Pretty solid. Actually, there are a few little like control-y cards, which I think would be interesting. It's hard because you like never really pull enough of them to actually make it work, but there's a Florges that has it actually has a gusting ability, which is pretty hard to come by in
Oh, wow.
pre-releases.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again,
Stage
on a
2
coin flip,
though?
it's a stage 2. Yeah, that is stage 2, which is a downside. But on a coin flip, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active, so a Gust and the new active's confused. So it's a good way to like disrupt and again start hitting your opponent a little bit harder. There's also like a Snorlax that
Yeah, that one's really
can
good.
heal itself and deal some good damage. So again, that's the other part that we look for, like these like splashable attackers. It's like if you pull a Snorlax, say, hey, I can refuel, and you can slowly power it up over a few turns while you're healing.
Yeah.
And become a bigger threat. Is it good? I don't know, but like it's things to keep an eye on.
Speaking of splashball attackers, if you pull a TL Mask Ogrepon EX, put it in your deck.
And draw
In your
engine.
deck.
It's definitely a good card. It accelerates energy and draws a card, as an ability. So even if you don't attack with it, it's just very good to have in your deck. What are we playing with Frostlass? What's the Frostlass combo?
Frostlass. So what's cool again? So Frostlass is like a split evolution line. So Snorunt evolves into both Glalie and Frostlass. So the Frostlass combos very well with the Glalie, where for damage beat for 1 energy, 20 damage times each damage counter on your opponent's active. So I think that if you get that Frostlass pre-release promo, then you're probably getting a pack that has a thicker line of like Glalie and Snorunt to go with it. There's also like some other like cool little cards that combo well with that. There's an Emolga that actually I think is pretty solid. It's free retreat. And for 1 energy, you're dealing 10 damage to all Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents. So, but again, just in the world of like stacking up damage, that's gonna be pretty good. You mix in that plus some Frostlass, you start chipping away. There's even like an Alakazam if you really want to get clunky and throw in a stage 2 in there that lets you like move around all your opponent's damage. Very similar to like some of the older, base set even abilities that let you do that. Yeah, and there's also like an Aggron that you can basically deals more damage based on your opponent's your own bench Pokemon. So Emolga with free retreat into that Aggron for 1 energy late game to start swinging for like 250. Pretty strong. Again, a lot of these are stage 2s, so a lot of it kind of depends on what you pull in the packs. But my general strategy is like to try to use a good chunk of the base kit if I can, unless I like get some really strong like complete evolution lines in my like pack pulls. And ultimately, kind of finding those good starters, those things like the Jinx. There's even like an Applin or like a Chansey or like other things that help you get set up a little more. A free retreater is always nice to have.
The
Those
Volbeat
techniques. Is there a good Volbeat in the set?
Yeah, the Volbeat. Fast sign. If you go first, you can use this attack during your first turn. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon. Put them on your bench.
Oh wait, that's in the set?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a must play.
If you pull one of them,
ooh,
Yeah,
definitely
good
play
setup,
that.
that's
guy.
pretty good.
You definitely play that.
Yeah,
and
I'm
also you
definitely
don't have to use it on your first turn, right? You can use it any turn. Yeah, so definitely grab those Volbeats, throw them in.
I'm looking for the Wacky Once during your turn, if your active Pokemon has the Festival Lead ability, you can search your deck for a card and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. I mean, this is just Pidgeot. So it's not a stage 2 though. It's not weak to lightning. So it's pretty good. But you gotta
Your
have the
active
Festival Lead.
Pokemon has the festival lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't
But
know
when you
what
have, like, the
Festival Lead
Dipplin-
does, Festival Lead lets you attack twice if you have the festival in the Festival Stadium in play. So which one has the Festival Lead?
Dipplin.
Dipplin. Bruh.
There
Anyways,
you go.
yeah, so the Dipplin has Festival Lead. Says if Festival Grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use any attack it has twice. The first attack knocks out your opponent. They have to pick a new one, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it has Do the Wave. It's a classic.
Oh, you can't attack
You know,
with a
old
TM
school
twice?
attack. No,
No, you can't.
Bro,
So he
what?
I
does
got
not.
you there. No, but Do the Wave is still a solid attack, right? You know, and that's that attack name even hails back to like the old school Wigglytuff in a base set. Do the Wave, 20 damage times each of your bench Pokemon, right? Fill your bench. You're swinging for 100 twice. I mean, that's pretty much enough to probably knock out most things in the pre-release format. So, pretty strong there. Plus, you get to search for a card you need with Thwacky. Lets you keep setting up your board, chaining more Dipplins, all that fun stuff. A lot of good potential of this deck, and I'm excited to see how it applies to standard with this like search engine of the Thwacky.
Dang, they really put this verbiage in here specifically, huh?
Yeah.
They were like, nah, you ain't Evoing twice. Dang. That's cringe. Yeah, because that'd have been cool with like the Crisis Punch.
That'd be nuts. This Crisis Punch.
Bro, 280. Bring up something else, 280. But yeah. All right, so those are some cool things. Any other combos you want to touch on before we move on? All right, well, good luck to everyone at your pre-release this weekend. Hopefully you kind of use that information to build you a good deck and find a way to win some additional packs because opening additional packs is a lot of fun, especially
Win the
when it's
glory.
new cards.
Oh,
For our next episode, we'll dive deeper into the standard format of Twilight Masquerade for NEIC as we look forward to that tournament coming. But for now, we're going to hear from some top players from Indianapolis that made day 2. One of those players is Jesper Eriksen, and the other is maybe going to be here, maybe not. We'll see. Editor's note will be added later, and I'll let you know. But for now, that's all we have for us, and we'll transition to the Jesper Eriksen interview, talking about his day 2 run with Charizard EX. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Beach Court podcast. We're joined here by Jesper Eriksen. Jesper, you make it back to Europe fine? All the travel was good for you?
Yeah, it was a long one. I mean, 20 hours sitting in different planes. I had 2 layovers. Wasn't too nice, but we got back all safe, no delays. So yeah, everything went perfect.
Yeah, it's better than me. I had delays. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, Jesper Eriksen is actually a former world champion of Pokemon in 2016 in the seniors division. You played the Yanmega Vespiquen deck. Tell us a little bit about that deck. Take us back to that time. Make sure people know what that deck does and kind of just tell them what it was like to be a world champion and hold that Pikachu trophy up.
Yeah, I mean, back then you had 3 big decks for that tournament. Actually, rather 2. You had the Aqua Box, which functioned around Seismitoad EX, Quaking Punch, which actually is the same attack as we have on Bennett EX today, but it was running all kinds of water Pokemon, Max Elixir, which we always see in the expanded format, and then we have energy switches to, you know, move these energies around and make it a toolbox, as we see in many decks today as well. And then of course we had the Night March deck, which is very much alike what we've seen in stuff like Lost March. We also see that in the United Wings, which basically dealt 20 for each Night March Pokemon in your discard pile. The max damage output for that without any tools involved was 220, which back then was an astounding number. That would kill anything in the format besides a Primal Groudon, which was, of course, also a massive fat Primal Evolution Pokemon. But that was not paying a lot. So therefore, that deck was among the strongest, and that Worlds was all about finding decks that either beat it, was close to it, or had grips on the rest of the field. So just like we've seen with Worlds in the past with Palkia, that was that time's Palkia deck for sure.
Mhm.
And I mean, the whole Worlds run was different, of course, because I mean, we always see these in Masters. This was the same year that Mega Audino won Worlds and Masters, which was a huge story all around because Mega Audino wasn't played at all before that, and Mega Audino only had success in one event, which is much like Mega Vespiquen only had my World Championship win as its only tournament, and people tried so much after that to make it work, but cards like Battle Compressor, which again we also see in the expanded format because the card is so good, rotated out after that Worlds. We never got to see a deck like it again. So that was some important pieces that gone from that deck, and the deck actually plays a lot like we see Ancient Box today. We have Yanmega Break as or sort of Koraidon attacker, which is the early game punches. Yanmega Break slap for 100 damage straight off the bat. And then you would clean up the game with Vespiquen, which essentially has the same attack as the Baby Roaring Moon. Instead of doing 70 plus 10, it did 20 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So you can see all these decks we have in the current format and in the past formats, they are very much alike as well.
Yeah, definitely in your case, right? When you play long enough, archetypes and ideas come back. Or you said United Wings, kind of like a Night March. I think it was Vengeance. Was that the attack on Vespiquen?
Be Revenge.
Oh, Be Revenge. Okay.
Vengeance was Flareon.
That was Flareon. Another similar type of attack.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's cool again, seeing these ideas come back, and it's like you're able to say, hey, here's what I played in 2016, man. It compares a lot to some decks that we even see played in standard format today. So that's exciting. Exactly. And again, congrats on the fantastic Worlds run. Deck was so good, no one else could play it as well as you again after, because it didn't exist.
I mean, the deck would never exist again after that Worlds because of rotation, right? So yeah. I kind of made the right play for a tournament. We did also have some Masters playing it, but the maximum run we got in Masters was the top 32 because the deck was kind of not good. But it ended up being good enough for winning seniors, which I am forever happy about. And I mean, also getting to experience winning Worlds. The season prior to that, I got 6th at Worlds with Seismito Crobat. And was knocked out by another now also famous player, Brent Tonneson. So there's a lot of stories between a lot of the top players in the game where we've either played against each other in seniors or we played against each other since. I mean, in me and Brent's case, 2015. But I mean, someone other I faced Azul probably a couple of times, and a lot of players that I faced who has amazing histories in the game, which I would also argue are better than mine, even though mine spans for almost 17 years.
Again, I think the back-to-back top 8 at Worlds at any level just shows to your skill as a player. And again, here you are kicking the Masters division later. So not quite a Masters World Champion yet, but that sounds like you still got plenty of years ahead of you to get that done, if that's a goal of yours.
Of course it is. I mean, if you ever qualify to Worlds, your number one goal is to win. I mean, of course, I can get it from the perspective of qualifying for the first time, but once let me count on my wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This year would be my 15th World Championship.
Wow.
If you played your 15th, yes, you're trying to win for sure, at whatever cost it comes.
You gotta make that your backdrop.
Yeah, it's gonna be up behind you next time. Yeah.
I mean, here I got my Worlds deck actually here.
Hey.
Behind.
Yeah.
That is the store-bought Worlds deck with the VGC mat and my own signed Yanmega. And then I have Chumlee from Pawn Stars, who gave me a portrait of winning a draft for NAIC 2018.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's fast forward a little bit, talk about 2024.
Yes.
You haven't had the best of seasons, Jesper. I mean, I know to your standards, it's definitely not there. And you finally broke it through this weekend and got your first A2 this season. So congratulations, got top 64 finish out of it even, so like you took it just one step further. It's like, hey, not just breaking through, but getting a good solid finish. You chose to play Zard, as a lot of the Zard bots around the room, Maddox did. So why'd you play Zard? Kind of like talk about your season, where it's going, and why you chose to play Zard.
So I was stuck in a very toxic relationship with Giratina Lost Box for the most parts of the season. I was a Tina warrior, and I mean, I had tried as much as I could, perfected the list. I coached a lot of Tina, and a lot of my students were actually having tons of success in the juniors and seniors division, even the masters too, with my Tina list. But somehow I just couldn't make the tournaments work for myself. Losing multiple win-ins. It's been across Tina, it's been across Maridon, it's been across Cloth as well. I've lost all my win-ins, and it has just not been there for me. It is not like the run has just been waiting on itself. And as you said, of course, finally breaking my streak of 6 wins and losses in a row, starting from Worlds in Japan until now, has definitely been rough. But then again, everyone in a card gaming career, as I have, will at some point hit a rough point. And I mean, I've hit it now. Probably for the past couple of years, I haven't had the results. I haven't won a major in Masters yet, for example, which is, I mean, some of the stuff that keeps me going, gives me the additional motivation, both in my play and my teaching, towards trying to strive towards that. So yes, terrible season so far. Still got my Worlds invite. So it does sound kind of arrogant to say it's a terrible season, but to the standards I've had in the past, yes, comparably, it has been a terrible season.
Yeah, I mean, but qualifying for Worlds, as you said, is always, if you can't win it if you're not there, right? So congratulations on that feat. You chose to play Jirachi and Mist Energy, which a lot of Zard players kind of just like look at Tord and like, what did Tord play? Tord didn't play either of those. You decided to play them this weekend. Kind of talk about why you decided to play both those cards in your list this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I still wanted to have somewhat of a matchup versus Lost Box and Lost Box Giratina. Jirachi is super important to that because it just shuts off Sableye. If you can have Jirachi down, the comeback potential you have in that matchup is just so massive because both decks need multiple combo pieces to fire off bigger attacks. Whether that be bossing your Pidgeot and knocking it out, or be using stuff like Lost Impact or Star Requiem, they still need the gates, they still need evolutions, whereas if they have Sableye, it's basically just Pokemon, energy, some way to get into it, and then you start taking prizes. That's what Jirachi stops in this case. Mist also does the same in the Giratina and Lost Box matchup against the Lost Box of Roaring Moon. Shuts off Frenzy Gouging if you have that attached to your Charizard. It shuts off Star Requiem, and it forces them to have a more awkward trade where they have to use Iron Leaves in the Tina matchup where you can swoop in with Iono or Roxanne plus Radiant Charizard and kind of put them on the back foot again. And both of those decks are notorious for being super weak against disruption cards. So that was why I put Jirachi in, and also Mist for these kinds of matchups. And of course, Mist Energy is something I put in instead of a second Charmeleon. A lot of players, including Ian Robb, who top 8'd this weekend, played the second Charmeleon over Mist. But what I found actually made the deck tick better was if you attached Mist Energy to Pidgeot to go around the devolution. Because yes, they might just devolve your Charizard, you would have a Charmeleon waiting in the wings. But what would you do if they took out your engine? Well, by attaching Mist Energy, they would not take out your engine, basically rendering TM Devolution useless.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of those techs, I mean, I saw you choose the Airy, the TM Devolution, right? Again, I think really those 3 cards, right? Like the Mist Energy, Eerie, and Devolution are kind of the pieces off of like the Tord list that a lot of people have been playing. How did they go for you through the weekend? Maybe did you ever, go and hit 2 superiors or 2 rare candies off of Chen Power or something like that? Like, did those cards pay off? Do they feel good? Like, would you have kept those inclusions, or would you think to go back to like again a more Tord-ish build or maybe different build if you were gonna go and play this to Stockholm, for example?
Yeah, of course I'm probably playing Star to Stockholm, or actually I could say I am 100% playing Star to Stockholm. There's no reason for me to switch the deck if I get my first day 2 of the season. It just makes no sense for me, of course. And I finally become somewhat comfortable with a deck in Charizard like I was in Tina. So that is fantastic. But yes, from my list this weekend, it does have its weak point, and that is Chimpao. Because yes, Devolution is nice where you can remove their Braxcaliburs, but a card like Silene really throws a wrench into your play, and if they flip 1 or even 2 heads on it, then we're kind of in the dumps. So currently, I don't really support the list that I played this weekend, actually. Eerie is also very dependent on if they hit stuff off prices that you can then remove, or if they're susceptible early game. My playstyle doesn't really make up for that, because I don't really want to bet on the fact that my opponent has something in hand. I did have others playing my list this weekend who were like, well, I Eeried 2 superiors off of Chimpao. That's great, but how often would you actually do statistically? Not a lot. So therefore, Against stuff like Chimpao, which is going to be loads off in Stockholm, I probably would be thinking that max belt version would be better somewhat, because you need some way to gain you any advantage you can against Chimpao. Although I did in games go 4-0 against Chimpao this weekend, but that was not due to my Eerie or my Devolution. It was just due to all my Chimpao opponents just drawing terribly.
That's the two sides of the deck, right? You're either in top 8, one of the 4 Chimpaos in top 8, or you went 0-3 because you couldn't ever get set up. So
yeah, and I'm at the 0-3 guys. Even though both my Chimpao opponents were, one was in day 2 and one was Travis Beckwith, who also ended up in day 2, fortunately. So yes, both of them were day 2 caliber players, but then again, Chimpao does what Chimpao does, right? Like there's just only so much you can do with Chimpao. If you have the sequencing down, the rest off is actually up to what happens on the roulette wheel. And that's why, these players who are consistently performing Chimpao, they have got the sequencing down to a fine art, but still you see them sometimes they bomb an event because Chimpao just does Chimpao sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes you get your ear off, stop, and it's like, all right, well, that'll do it. Sometimes it happens.
Exactly.
I was sort of like the point you brought up of like I hit 2 off of Eerie. Like, oh, well, how likely were you to actually hit that? I do think a lot of players like, will go and say, oh, I got unlucky. This happened or this happened, when really there are odds to that. If you have a 15 card hand and you didn't, go rare candy backs because you're missing a piece, then you probably have some superiors in your hand to get Eerie snipe type of thing. I guess, is that something is that something you've talked about in your coaching, or just another philosophy like you think of like playing and like mixing in those like numbers and statistics to it?
Yeah, because a lot of things, like I'm terrible at math, just to line that out. I might have a brother who is a statistician and a PhD mathematician, but again, I didn't get that blood. So what I usually work off is logics. And with that said, of course, you can have the situations where 15 card hand, it didn't hit Rarcani backs. Okay, there's probably some superiors in that hand we can snipe. Yes, that's true. But it is mostly, of course, in my coaching, I also discuss this. We got to think logically about things. We got to like look at the signals that our opponents are giving, both physically in their body language, as well as also, just the logistics of it. Like you said, the situation with 15 card hand, and there's also the other thing of like, if you're playing a Sarp mirror and your opponent has a free range quick searches to get whatever they want because they have everything on board, and they search a Charmeleon instead of Bibarel, it means the B-Ball is prized always. Stuff like that is something I pick up always to my students, because it just means that we can perhaps bend our strategy because of that. Even if they take a prize, it would only be 1 out of 6 that they would get the B-Ball. So therefore we would, for example, still knock out the Charmeleon. Stuff like that is something I go over meticulously in my coaching, because it just makes sure that they are better prepared in cases where things aren't going quite to strategy, or we see an opening in their defenses essentially.
All right, and continuing, again, competing in Europe, there's some people that will say, it's harder in some regions, it's easier in some regions. Right, you've been living in Europe, been competing there, got your Worlds invite, like you said already this year. What are some of the challenges with the scene, or maybe what are some spots that are a plus about competing in Europe, maybe compared to some of the other regions?
I think compared in Europe is that, of course, we play the same number of rounds, because that changes after 800 people. We always hit 800 people. I actually think in Stockholm, that's going to be the smallest regionals of the year. We would only have 14 rounds to Swiss there. But yes, essentially the competition in the US and EU is much the same in terms of the average player level is around about the same. But of course we don't have such a massive stack of players like you have. Indianapolis this weekend was 2,342 players, if I remember exactly. And we don't hit these kinds of player numbers in Europe. We could have at EUIC if TPCI had opened more spots, or whoever ran the tournament. I think it was Tournament Center who did run it. If there were more spots, and we could also have NEIC cap at a higher spot, of course. But yes, our tournaments are primarily smaller than the American circuit, but it doesn't mean that the skill level of the circuit is lower. I would, in some aspects, regard it to be higher. And that comes from, of course, me being playing in both the American and the European circuit, because of course I traveled to 4 North American regionals this year. So having a bit of experience from that, and of course also done that in past seasons. But play level is much the same. But there are of course some inherent differences in the decks that are played in Europe and in the US, where there are a lot of European players amongst myself in the past who were control players, and you would know when you face them, they would always just play control. Whereas in in the US, it's more a fluent thing. Of course, we also had it in the past format where Mew was absolutely dominating Europe, whereas
Miyu. So,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mew.
and also like
Whereas that was
Miraidon. Also,
yeah.
like Miraidon would be played a lot in North America, but you didn't really ever make the big switch to Europe either. So
Exactly, where we have Mew instead. So those could be like some sorts of differences that you have to take into account when you're traveling back and forth between those places. And I did really learn that when I went to the US. The meta was a bit different, but overall, much of the same. Just from these slight differences like Baridon and Mew, as you said, of course.
How do European players feel about the um ability to have to play in special events? Because like some places can't have prizing, and so you can win the event and qualify for Worlds just like any other regional, and Pokemon acknowledged that this year, but you can't win any money.
Yeah.
How does the European community feel about that change and shift this year?
Of course, I don't have a background in law, and the kind of way that's been going around has been that it's due to gambling laws in different country. But for example, Denmark has had special events in the past where we have also held EPTs in poker. So yes, it is possible to pay out, for example, money pricing in some of these countries, and as well as France usually has had special events in the past. We had Lille regionals coming up these past years, which of course switched it from a special to a regionals, but also stuff like Barcelona, which also hosts EPT on the poker circuit. This does mean that you are able to pay out prize money. So I think it's actually a financial question and not a law question when we get into this. If I just compare with the poker scene in different countries, because Italy also has poker tournaments and stuff like that. But I think it's depending on, age of gambling as well, because of poker tournaments, everyone would be 18 or 21 and older. Whereas in Pokemon tournaments, you can make money when you're 8. So I think there's a distinct difference in those things. But of course, I don't know the difference. But of course, we would like if we had regionals only instead of special events, because I think that the special events they are there to give tournaments to regions where there aren't as many players. For example, we had specialists in Colombia, Argentina, and stuff like that, where I mean, they don't have a lot of players to, maybe justify having money on the line. Whereas I would 100% argue that in Europe, for example, for Barcelona this year, yes, you're giving away an invite to the winner. That's great. You're giving around the same CP as regionals. It's also great. You have a stream setup that matches regionals, but you don't have the money pricing, which I do think takes down the not-so competition, which is also why I, for example, judged Utrecht this year instead of playing it.
Mhm.
Because for me, I haven't really been in the running for top 22 this year, which is like the first year many I haven't. But it didn't make sense to me to travel there and play, where I decided then to take a leap into judging instead, for example.
yeah, I mean the scale again, like Utrecht, right? I just pulled the number 860 masters in it compared to right, Colombia SPE or Puerto Rico SPE actually happening this weekend. I mean, again, those numbers could be closer to like that 1 to 200. There's definitely the player base in Europe for those. I guess to that, I know there's also been, whenever like, regionals come out in registration, right? There's always this kind of rush for regionals. And I know that a lot of the European ones are known for capping like very quickly. I think it just shows like the amount of like demand there is for Pokemon there. And I mean, again, just, shout out to you and the whole EU community of just how committed to the game they are. And again, EUIC would have gone way past the number that they even had if they had made more space available.
Yeah, and that would have been for everyone in the world, right? Because there have been more North Americans coming over. Basically everywhere, especially the European market has, just like the US market, grown so much that, of course, the organizers can't keep up. But that's where we would, with our wishful thinking, that is, think that they would be able to make more slots and more spaces. But somehow Pokemon has to face that challenge. And I think they will do that in these coming seasons to the abnormally huge demand comparing, because I mean the first NAIC I was at, of course I did have priority registration because that season I was in the top 16, but there weren't as many players at all. I mean, the Masters division was like 1,000 people, and I was like,
Wow.
dude, that's massive. I'm never gonna be at a tournament this size again. And now you're just laughing when you're seeing 2,500 Masters, and you're like, damn, that grew.
It's under 2,000, and we're like, what's wrong? You know, like what's going on?
You got like
Exactly.
Greenland regionals, you know, still gets 900 or something, right?
Yeah.
So,
It probably will. I mean, the Nuuk airport would definitely like quadruple the amount of passengers coming through in a weekend, which would be great. And then we all get to eat seal for a week.
I was kinda-
But then again, that would be perfect. You just all have to remember to wear huge winter coats when you're coming to the northern part of the Danish kingdom.
Yeah, I was gonna like bring up travel in Europe. So the point threshold is lower for you as you're European. Do you think that's due to they know how difficult it can be to travel to regionals? Because I don't think the number of regionals is like significantly lower. As far as like
It actually is.
points.
It
What's
is
up?
significantly
Regionals,
lower.
right?
You have, I think you have 12 regionals this season. We have 8 regional like
Okay,
events.
okay.
So it does factor up with those. I think it's like 8 or 9 or something
Alright.
like that. But then we had some Italian SBs popping up. So this was numbers like from the start of the season, right? But in terms of like easily reachable regionals, because all your regionals are by almost by rule of thumb are close to like a reachable airport. Ours is not necessarily. For example, going to
Right.
Bologna really sucks. Going to something like Trieste, Turin is also like a terrible airport actually to get to because it's expensive. Of course, it being expensive is different in European language and American language, of course, because I mean, while your flights to an inland regional, for example, if you were to fly, I did this trip actually. I did the Indianapolis to Charlotte, this year. That flight set me back $500, and for me getting back and forth to Indianapolis from Copenhagen was also $500. So again, your intercontinental travel is much more expensive than the Europeans. Of course, you have Spirit, you have Southwest, but I mean, stuff like Ryanair and EasyJet are just way cheaper than those airlines, which
Yeah.
would be regarded as your cheaper airlines. So flying in Europe is definitely cheaper, but I think the point threshold has to do something with the amount of tournaments on the larger scale we got. Definitely.
Cool.
yeah, definitely the amount of majors that you can go to and get, you know, reach that best finish limit. It's just fewer opportunities, and again, sometimes
Exactly.
maybe even less opportunity if they're filling up so quickly. So
Right.
Yeah, we had that issue for a lot of them, and I mean,
lot of them,
I have been very fortunate in getting into the events, but then again, I mean, like our specials, they're for free, so everyone just goes and registers. I even do that even if I'm not sure of going, because then it's like then I have the chance of doing it. But yes, I mean, we had events like let me think. We were afraid that was going to be Stockholm, but it was not, because Stockholm, relatively to the rest of Europe, is in the middle of nowhere, because the Swedish community is the smallest in Scandinavia, has been forever. Which is why I'm severely campaigning for regionals in Copenhagen, even though I don't live personally in Copenhagen, but I mean, everyone's going to travel through there regardless.
Right. Because it's a major
Um,
airport, right? Yeah.
It's a major airport in Scandinavia, of course, because every single, like most travel, for example, when we headed to Malmö regionals, which is just across the border from Denmark, everyone went through Copenhagen anyway. Why not just have it in Copenhagen? Because they do have convention centers that can host it. Of course, that's a money question, because
Yeah.
hosting events in Sweden is cheaper because the Swedish kroner is kind of trash. But yes, I think it's a whole question of the amount of majors we have, not the difficulty of travel, because the difficulty of travel isn't there in Europe. Because you have to
Okay.
remember, of course, you can travel with your travel ID. If you hold the passport in the European Union, you can travel to any country without visa in the European Union. And I can still travel to UK and Switzerland having a European Union passport because of deals that were made. So I can go to Switzerland for 90 days without having to pay for a visa, or the UK for 90 days without having to pay for a visa. So yeah, that's not the issue.
Cool. Well, it's good to hear that kind of insight. We don't talk to many people, from Europe about these kind of intricate details. So thanks for that insight. Let's switch over to kind of my personal favorite topic every time I see you. I met you at Worlds Round 1 and you pulled up the cross-switch routine on me, and I'm like, okay, great, this is gonna be fun. But then day 2, I'm sitting there watching you, and you're there in the corner hanging out with some friends, and you guys are laughing, having a good time, and there's some Exodia pieces on the table, and you're flipping some coins, flipping lots of coins. So I'm like, what is this? I come over and you teach us what Epic Splash is. Epic Splash is a format that you and your brother and kind of give us the kind of give us the rundown of how that format was created. And where did you come up with it, and where is it evolving to, and how and what's going on with it now?
Yeah, so for more in depth, my brother actually made a video on this with all the origins of the Epic Splash format. But yes, it really did took its kind of birth at Worlds this year with the popularity, because it's always been a format within Denmark. We hosted local nationals in it pre-COVID and stuff like that. But the format itself originates from Dark Integral Gaming, who made a video about the most coin flippy deck you can ever have. And him and one of his friends played a match, and we took it a step further where one of my locals, Casper Svensson, he went into wanting to build the Epic Splash Magikarp. And he is the big brain behind all of this. He's the guy who made the original list with all the Exodia pieces, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and people coming up to me at regionals when I haven't made day 2, which has been all regionals besides Indy this season. They come up to me, they're like, what is this? Why is Exodia on the table? Why do you have Exodia in your hand? What is Epic Splash Magikarp, and what is Magikarp Break? And then, of course, we have to explain the whole format, as I did to you at Worlds, of course, Eric. And it was a try at making, a fun format, just like we have on GLC, but just fully about RNG. And I usually present it as, hey, this is the standard format, just with 60 card mirrors, and you just flip a bunch of coins instead of having to draw all your combo pieces.
Right. Yeah.
It did really take its leap at Worlds. I was playing it, and then one of the head judges from Masters came over after their tournament was done. I was still playing it in the hall, one of the Germans, and he came over and we sat down and played, and he was like, damn, this is actually fun. Yeah. And when a German say that is for real then. And we sat down and played, and he was like, we got to make this into a side event. So my brother and I were given the task of making it to a side event legal deck format, because of course for a Pokemon side event, we could not have Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That would not be fitting. So this season for 2022 tournaments, the organizer, they've hosted rental decks with Epic Splash. And actually in some of the day 2s, I have gone over and said, hey, can I help out? And I've sat there, played against the players with the Epic Splash decks, and taught them how to play. And with these new decks, we've decided to swap out the 5 pieces of Exodia, which both in Yu-Gi-Oh! And in this would say that if you drew all 5 pieces of Exodia, you can summon the unstoppable Exodia to obliterate your opponent. We have changed that effect into 5 evolutions, which, I mean, it gives off the same vibe. We still call it doing the Exodia on the opponent, right? But
we still obliterate, absolutely.
Yes.
Evolutions obliterate.
So is it an evolution VMAX? Is that essentially what we're summoning?
I mean, we're just summoning the greatest Pokemon that would be the Pokemon over all Pokemons, and it would beat Mew or Mewtwo in any battle.
The ultimate fan favorite.
It is the ultimate Pokemon on strength, fan favoritism, and everything. And it just looks into your opponent, and they give them a gaze, and they would just evaporate into the lost zone, and you would win.
Yeah, I mean that seems, it's a lot of fun. If you haven't played it, where can people find the rules to the format?
Yes, so they can be found on my brother's YouTube page. He's made a video on Epic Splash. So if you type in your YouTube search bar, Stefan's Classroom, Epic Splash, you will probably get that video where he explains both the origins behind Epic Splash. Of course, I also made a tweet on Epic Splash at some point, which will also be featured in that video. So yeah, after you listen to this podcast, of course, go ahead and check that out, because it's not every time you'll make day 2 tournaments. Eric, for example, you did it in Indy. Me and Maddox were kind of taking the crew there. But you could sit down and play Epic Splash instead, which I would actually somewhat think is more enjoyable than the standard format at the minute.
Sometimes it can be. I mean, I tried to bring Epic Splash into my standard deck this weekend when I brought 4 Crushing Hammers and just getting them back from the discard pile every turn. But I didn't have a good job flipping heads this weekend, so it didn't go my way. But Epic Splash will go my way sometimes. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. Maddox, anything to add about Epic Splash before?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say, I mean, again, if it's a format you haven't tried yet, very fun way to play. There's printable proxies. That's in Jesper Suite that has like all the printable proxies, so with the Exodia pieces, but you can swap them out for whatever you want or get the real cards that you want. And I mean, Jesper, I think it's really been cool that you've shown it to us. I know that Eric's been a big champion of it, bringing lists and decks and the cube of it to a bunch of regionals, and we've played games with a lot of different players and even pro players. We have a tweet on our podcast, even Twitter, about playing with Aiden Koos right before his finals match because he was like, I want something that's brain dead where I can just flip some coins, and he was there playing Epic Splash with us. So
yeah, and I did that before Worlds Finals as well. I made Vance Kelly play some Epic Splash, and I think I also made a tweet about that.
Oh, that's
really?
right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I made a tweet about him playing Epic Splash, and what happens? He wins. So if you want to win the World Championships, you got to play some Epic Splash first.
from the
Exactly.
world champion himself, Jesper and Vance.
Doing that to a world champion, yes.
So you have to play
Alright.
Epic Splash against a world champion to become the world champ. That's like a passing of the torch or something. Is that how it
Yeah,
goes?
it's like kind of just passing the spirit. It's just like every
Okay.
single time I room with someone, I don't make day 2, but they make day 2.
Okay, so Jesper, when are we getting Tord to play you an Epic Splash on stream? I think it should
I
be
mean-
you versus Tord on stream Epic Splash.
Actually, that has happened. Not on stream though. We did play a match of Epic Splash because Tort was a heavy opponent of playing that kind of format. But I made him play it once at USC.
Yeah.
I lost.
Oh,
Classic Tord. So,
Classic Tord. He
picks up
summons
a
his
new
ma-
deck, just destroys you with it.
Tord goes and summons his blood armor. But yes, he did beat me in the Epic Splash game we had. And I mean, Epic Splash is always fun to do after a tournament and have, a couple drinks over Epic Splash and have some fun. Get to talk for a tournament, do stuff like that. I mean, stuff like that is fantastic. It's almost like as if you're playing a party game.
Yeah.
And
It
that's
really
what
is.
the closest resemblance I would have to Epic Splash is.
love it.
All right, let's transition back to the boring standard format that we currently have. And you've got to go play in Stockholm this weekend. You mentioned that you're probably playing Zard.
Yeah.
Is that the true play for this weekend? What's the play for Stockholm?
The play is whatever you think the play is actually, because the format is so wide. I mean, if you're playing Ancient Box or you're facing non-Jin Paus, good luck, you're 9-0.
Yep.
But the standard format right now is much about picking the deck you're most familiar with, the deck you can play the best in any regards of matchups, and then you just have to hit the matchup roulette pretty much. So I didn't quite hit the matchup roulette this weekend, but I was actually quite fortunate with the way that I played my start deck out, and of course some draws of my opponents, them getting stuck on Roxanne's and me having maybe a different approach to Charizard than others. But essentially what you got to do in this format is to play the best deck for you. It doesn't, there isn't like a clear-cut best deck, because if you're terrible at playing Chin Pao, just don't play it. If you're terrible at Dialga, don't play Dialga. But if you're very good at Zard and stuff like that, you should play it, because it means that you're getting, the maximum efficiency out of your plays. And it also means that you play faster, and we're playing with the 50-minute best of 3 time limit. That does matter a lot, because you're going to be able to pick up more games in that fashion. So there isn't a clear-cut play. There is just what the play is for you. And for example, for me this weekend, I grow fond of Zard. I like searching for whatever card I want in every turn. I like drawing some cards with B-Roll on top of that. I like being able to use Roxanne and Counter Catcher in the same turn. Well, Zard's a good deck.
Yep.
Such a responsible answer from an experienced coach, world champion, successful player, all that. I wanted you to just say, "Oh, play Dialga, it's cracked," but they're saying, "Hey, play what you know."
Yeah, because it's not going to help you, Maddox. If, for example, if you had one game of Dialga and you're like, "Oh, this is busted. Let's take it to regionals." You sit there and you're 0-9 because you're like, "Oops, I didn't test it actually. I haven't had months and months of play on this or something that's like it, right?" You would be sitting there and beating yourself up about it. And that's also what I promoted my coaching, right? Is that we want to, of course, be the best what we can with a deck that looks good for the event. But I'm never going to go ahead and tell them the week before, play this whole different deck that you've never played before, because they're not going to get the result out of it that they want. And some of my students, they are amongst the top ranking leaders in the regions. And we have to make sure that they're playing something they know and something they're comfortable with. That doesn't mean that we're going to swap to Dialga last minute, for example. We can't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, speaking of coaching, and thanks for all of your insight in this episode, and joining us. We've been wanting to have you on for a while. Finally broke through, got to day 2. Got to get you on. So super excited to have you here. But any shout outs to any sponsors you have and any coaching plugs you wanna drop before we end the episode?
Yes, of course. Thank you massively to Limitless. I've been with them since 2017, and since this past summer, I've been the manager of the playing team. Of course, Robin is the guy who runs the website, so don't thank me for the website. Thank Robin Schultz for it, for sure. Also want to thank Cart Market, who is also a sponsor of the Limitless team itself, and most importantly, Dragon Shields, who sponsored me with sleeves and are a true Danish company giant. So very much shout outs to them, and of course, if you're interested in getting coaching, I do also do intro sessions, which are pretty much taster sessions to what you can expect of getting from me as a coach, which are 30-minute free sessions you can use. They can be found on medify.gg/@Jesby, or you can find it on my Twitter or send me a DM, and then I'll always be available to help out with whatever your needs are in the game.
Yeah, I mean, thanks again, Jesper, for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you at the tables. And maybe table 1, we can epic splash for it. We don't have to actually play the standard game sometime.
Or maybe you will see me judging your table sometime. You never know.
Ooh, maybe you'll be in judging. But thanks for coming on. We really appreciate having you. And we'll let you go get some sleep now. We know you get back in Europe and it's late for you.
Thank you so much. And it's been my pleasure for sure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, but that's all we got this week for this episode of the Beach Court Podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you again in 2 weeks.